All right. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel, Connor Unchained. So, I want to talk about a ton of different things today, including majors, overall sentiment, what's going on in the market, a ton of different altcoins, things I've been looking at over the last few days, because the market has been very focused on hyper specific coins and niches lately. We'll cover everything. So, and then also, like I said, a few other new coins that are going to be launching, coming out, things to be looking for, and maybe other narratives at the end as well. So, why don't we start? So, mainly with sentiment. So, this is AVNT. I actually want to get into this in a minute here. So, sentiment the last couple days has been, very questionable. Everyone is just thinking, like, on and off, like, what's happening. Lots of people are still bullish. Lots of people are actually starting to look for shorts. Sentiment is still in a very questionable state, which, is totally understandable. This market can look like it's about to go to zero one day. 2 days later, we're bouncing, printing to new all time highs. Very difficult to fully know what is going on, but that's where I've been trying to play both sides in a bunch of different ways. But, anyways, at least for Bitcoin, structurally here, it still looks fairly solid. I have this here because the other day it did look like things were actually going to start dropping even further. And this to me is going to be an indicator of where Bitcoin actually wants to go in the shorter term. And by that I mean anywhere from the next few days, even a couple weeks from now. Um, so the biggest thing that I'm doing in the market is still just watching mainly Bitcoin and ETH, seeing what they're going to be doing because it seems like a lot of altcoins are they've been very sideways. Not too much has been happening. Especially for meme coins, and meme coins have been getting obliterated across the board lately. So let's jump in with Bitcoin. I mean, like I said, I think it looks structurally okay. If we zoom out even further, the only thing would be, again, is this trend. I do want to see Bitcoin continue to hold, even if it comes down a little more. If it can build some more bullish momentum in October, going into October, showing signs that it actually wants to attempt to go further back to all time highs. Very short term, though, again, we could see an even lower move on Bitcoin, which I think that would show potential weakness with Bitcoin. And obviously, in turn, that will also hurt altcoins. But for now, I think Bitcoin still looks okay. We're having a bounce today. The other day, everything took a huge hit. But we've actually been seeing almost, I don't want to say launchpad wars, but perp wars with Aster, AVNT, with Hyperliquid. Aster has been one of the main movers and runners over the last couple days here. I think it was just trending. Where was it? So Aster is basically backed with oh yeah, we got some trades up. But Aster was literally behind CZ, or CZ is behind Aster. There's a lot of things pointing to Aster continuing to move. But what I've noticed in the market is that it is even more focused on playing the narrative and trying to be early to a coin or a narrative while basically everything else takes the backseat. Everything kind of dumps, everything's chopping. That is how the market's been for a long time right now. But, for Aster, Hyperliquid, and AVNT, which is the version on base, they've all went on very good runs. Hyperliquid obviously dominated for a long time. We're seeing Aster and AVNT starting to get traction though. This is for the Binance chain, right? And then AVNT for base. But the thing that I've been doing lately is focusing more so on trade setups because I think, as the market continues to run, whether we do fully get this altcoin season, right, or not, I think it's going to be very important that you guys are playing and focusing on the coins that are the main runners. Because personally, I did not jump into these too heavy at all. Um, Missed basically all these runs, but because of the dump we had, Aster has been showing strength. We took a bunch of trades, over the last couple days here that have been pretty good. Things have been moving, things have been running. So that has been the main thing going on in the market lately is literally Aster, and then another one stable, STBL, also showing a lot of strength. Last couple days, I've mainly just been focused on trade setups, looking for moves on these because the market is hyper focused on it right now. And like I said, majors like ETH2 is still holding, but took a nosedive, of course, the last couple of days. But still holding within the range. I still firmly think, aside from it probably bouncing, coming back down, chopping a little bit, and depending on what it does going into October here, I'm still very bullish on ETH. But if we do see a breakdown of this general range or area, that to me is going to be very questionable. Although it's still also a possibility we could even get a decent liquidity grab and then we just start running back up. So again, taking it day by day here, I'm still bullish. I feel like I do flip-flop on and off mentally because, when you're exposed to the market, sometimes it's not easy to see your portfolio swing like crazy up and down certain days, right? But that's where we come back to reality and tell ourselves, all right, well, why don't we just look at structure? What is it showing us in front of our face? Does it look good or does it look bad? But I think things still look okay for what they are. Things are still bullish. So I want to cover a couple other things as well, because that was mainly majors sentiment. Not too much else. I'm not really watching too many other majors at the moment. It seems like a lot of majors are kind of sideways as well right now, while things chop. But I do want to bring up a couple coins that are going to be launching at some point soon that I found pretty interesting. Okay, so we got XPL, we got Plasma. So this right now is pre-market. You can check this out. I personally do not recommend you jump into anything pre-market. Most pre-market coins, I think they run pretty hard, I guess, going into launch. But once they launch, usually you're going to see these nukes. So I would not be jumping into these. But Plasma is a pretty interesting project. This is on whales.market. Just another coin that I'm watching. I think at launch, we might see it dump for a little bit. So I'm not going to be looking to, just jump into it, full port it right when it launches. Unless the market is really showing clear strength within this one. So we'll see how this goes once it's actually out. And I want to talk about a couple others. Because the main thing I'm still looking at in the market too is what will be the next narrative that takes off. We're seeing perps kind of overtaking everything. We saw robotics, which, if you guys have seen my channel, I'm very bullish on robotics as a whole. We've seen robotics coins running on and off for a while. Some of them have made pretty good gains. Seen some degen robotics coins run. Then we also got a couple other metas though. Another one that I've been looking into a lot has actually been prediction markets. And one of the main tokens that is likely going to be launching, I don't want to say soon, but I think going into Q4, whether it is the next few weeks, maybe even a month or two from now, is going to be Myriad. Because with prediction markets, I've seen a lot of talk on and off the last few weeks. At first, prediction markets went crazy. People were thinking it's the next huge narrative. Very much so slowed down once Aster was out and once perps kind of took over as the narrative. But as of right now, those are still huge. Perps is taking over the market, but now this is where I want to continue to look for other stuff as well, right? But Myriad, they're going to be probably one of the main prediction market coins, if and when it does launch, that I think could get a ton of traction. The thing with it too is in this market, if you can see a narrative early, and especially if a coin is out and identify basically the clear winner, maybe there's two clear winners of that narrative, that is where you want to be positioning in the market right now. I think just spreading capital across a ton of different altcoins right now is just not, it really just is not the way to be going. That's actually why I have not made a ton of videos, talking about altcoins left and right. Because I think the market's just different right now. And until we see that huge shift in bullish sentiment from altcoins across the board, I think we're still going to be playing the market as it is right now. Hyper focused on the next main runners of the next narrative that will take over crypto Twitter. and then maybe, if normies or non-crypto people start jumping in again, that will be the icing on the cake, right? Got to be front running crypto Twitter. But Myriad, apparently they have Rug Radio, which is tied to them, and I think Rug Radio NFTs are going to be getting airdropped. I do not hold any. I usually do not try to farm anything. I don't really care. I will look at a token once it's launched because, again, most tokens, when they do launch, unless it's a stealth launch and it has no hype on it, most tokens that have a ton of hype will usually dump for a while, so you have a lot of time to be watching it, waiting for a good entry. But Myriad, something like that, depending on how their tokenomics are, we could see this end up becoming one of the top prediction market tokens, again, if and when it's actually live. But I would say these three actually are right here: Myriad, Polymarket, and Kalshi. Kalshi specifically has been doing a lot with, trying to grow their ecosystem. So there are some projects within this ecosystem that I think could be something to at least look for, because if this narrative becomes, something that really does take over crypto Twitter, again, I think that narrative would happen if and when one of these main platforms does launch their token. Maybe it dumps, goes sideways for a bit, and if the market starts to pick up on that, if it's got good tokenomics and people are starting to realize, like, yo, there's another coin out, whole new trend, tons of different bullish factors, that's when the market will shift. And then we'll probably start to see more degen coins across the board in this meta alone just start to take off. With Kalshi, there are a couple. I'll show you guys like one of each right now. Again, I'm not telling you guys this right now to be buying these tokens. I do not own these. I'm just giving you guys examples of this meta and the kind of research that I think is very important that anyone and everyone in this market should be doing. Look for that potential next meta. Look for coins within that meta that may actually become something bigger. Even if they are somewhat high risk, it's all narrative. This market is trading attention. Usually when a narrative starts running, no one gives a fuck about anything. They'll blindly ape because it fits a narrative. So keep that in mind. Again, I'm not trying to shill these. I don't even own them, and I don't want to be buying them yet because they could actually drop a little bit more. But if you go to Dex Screener, it seems like the only tokens right now that are within this narrative that I'm seeing are kind of, I don't want to say they're not infra tokens, but they're kind of like tools, little tools like that. One of them is Rain. We got rainmaker.fun. This one they actually just partnered with Kalshi. I guess they're underneath that Kalshi ecosystem. This one does look like it wants to start moving. It actually looks pretty good. Now that I'm thinking about it, I actually do kind of want to buy some here. I'm not even kidding. And just let it sit for a while, because if this narrative does end up becoming something, positioning in it before people even think it's going to be a narrative is actually how you get the best gains. Again, I do not hold this right now, but I'm actually thinking about it. But this is Rain. Like I said, it's kind of just like a trading bot almost. Just a little tool that they got. AI trading agents for prediction markets, arbitrage, copy trades, sniper, things like that it seems like are some of the only tokens right now. But you got to keep in mind with this meta too is if a main platform token launches, that is going to be the number one play to focus on instead of the degen plays. I'm looking at these right now because none of the top platforms have a token live yet. And I don't know if Kalshi will have a token. I would assume maybe in the future, because they're literally trying to get attention within crypto Twitter. They're doing a ton of ecosystem partnerships. Polymarket, I believe, may have a token in the future, but then Myriad Markets, which again is like the third one, it is confirmed, I believe, that there is going to be a token, but probably not very, very soon. It might be a few weeks, maybe a month or two from now. But Rainmaker is just one project that's been on my radar. Again, very high risk. This is not like the next 50x, but just been looking at this. I think it's pretty interesting. Another one too, just within this meta, just to give you guys a rundown of things that I'm watching, is right here, Quantrix, same thing. They actually just released their tokenomics. I do not hold this, nor am I thinking about buying it yet, but Quantrix, same thing. It's a very high risk play. But it is going to be, it seems like one of the only tokens that I've found to date that is going to be pretty much tied to Myriad. This is not like partnered with them. They're kind of just building upon Myriad markets. It's an individual person, not tied with Myriad in any way. But it seems like, people have been talking about it on crypto Twitter a little bit. Just something to potentially watch. The main point of when I make these meta videos or like narrative videos, I like to just show you guys the different tokens that potentially could end up moving. Half the time, it's like I'm not going to show you guys 20 of these coins and tell you to buy them all. I've done that. It's like with robotics coins months ago. Same thing. I'm showing you guys a handful of coins within the meta, so you already have at least an idea of what's going on. But these are just some of them. There's still a couple other ones. I'm trying to think too, because I do think that's going to be a meta. But as far as perp platforms and trades right now, the other thing, like I said, I've been focusing on very heavy, more specifically like the last few days, aside from that research, has actually been watching for trades and actual shorter term setups on Aster. Oh my god, I literally forget the other one on base. Avantis right now. Same thing. I mean, I guess, I've personally taken some trades. I'm trying to find a good setup coming soon. But we're just watching, waiting for things. As I think it's super important. If the market is already decided on a clear winner, whether it's one chain or the other, usually they're probably going to continue running, right? So instead of missing the entire run, you can always get a portion of it. So that's what I've been watching mainly, looking for trade setups on a lot of stuff. Been messing with Blowfin exchange, if you guys are familiar. Using that just to test out optimized strategies right now. And then also, like I said, looking into new metas, new potential opportunities. Last thing I want to end on with this is right now two things. So one, even on Solana right now, there really isn't a perp dex that's been running. We got Quanto here, which this apparently is Oxfun, which if you guys have ever heard of that was an old meme coin trading platform. I don't know, I think there was some sus stuff going on with that platform, but they rebranded to this Quanto a long time ago. And this seems like it's starting to move. I'm not in this, nor am I going to buy this unless it has a huge dip. But it seems like Solana does not have a huge perps platform that the market is, going crazy for. There's obviously drift, if you guys have heard of that. But same thing, the market is not, trying to just full port into drift right now. There's really no crazy platform on Solana right now. So like I said, it's mainly that's why you're focusing on the coins that are going to be the clear winners, at least going into the next few days, even a week from now. But keep in mind it is a trend. Maybe these do continue into the next few months, but you got to be careful. That's also why I think just trading them sometimes is great, because you can take the entry, sell a little bit so you're not just bag holding on certain stuff, right? Last thing I wanted to talk about too that I've been looking more into is actually Gamblify again. But the main reason is not because I'm bullish on gambling platforms, but Gamblify I feel like could be something as well, because there are actually some platforms now that they almost have gamified trading. I actually saw a tweet. I wish I had it up. I saw a tweet the other day. I think it was by ICO Beast on Twitter. Kind of quote tweeted someone. It was these people in a room. They had a legitimate like trading platform up on a projector screen, and a ton of people were watching it as if it was like a TV show or something. And to me, it was pretty interesting to see that, because I'm like, you know what? One, that would be sick. I want to do that. But two, I'm like, it seems like gamified trading could actually turn into something more than just kind of what I said, right? Could actually turn into something bigger than that. And when I say gamified trading, it's like trading almost a mix of like gaming, making it more enjoyable, and also gambling in a sense. But right now, it seems like we might maybe see some sort of Gamblify platform token. There are a ton out. Some of them have decent tokenomics, some of them are terrible. But that's going to be a meta as well, because we are just seeing basically a rotation from gambling on the soul trenches with Pump to now gambling on perp dexes with Aster, with Avantis, with Hyperliquid. To me, I'm thinking, okay, well, where are people going to want to gamble next? It could actually just be some sort of gamified trading platform like that, which in turn would almost be a Gamblify type thing. So it seems like a mix because I don't think full out gambling platforms will just be huge. It's got to be a mix of like, true like degenning, but in a gamified way. So that's also something I just started looking into today actually. But pretty interesting stuff. I was normally going to cover like the main coins that we talk about here, guys, but so many alts are just not performing. Aoki has been a clear outperformer right now in the market. If this does dip, probably a pretty good entry because, again, robotics coins, huge narrative, and I think it's only going to continue. And Aoki is still the number one robotics coin, in my personal opinion. It has been for almost, a year now? I think since last, like, October, November. Even Ray, in my opinion, has been a top tier base AI coin. But again, because the market is so rotational, it seems like just so many coins across the board have not been performing because people are trying to either sell their bags to jump into new shit, the new shiny coin on the block, or look to gamble on other stuff, right? No one knows how to hold too many coins anymore. So that's really what I'm looking for. And I'm still very bullish on Pump Fun. Main thing right here is I'm actually also waiting for a more clear setup on this, but not sure if and when this will actually play out because right now, currently, Pump's price is kind of just in the middle of nowhere. There's no true clear level that it's falling on. A very clear level would be this general area, but as you guys can see, that is a far way to go down, and I don't know if it's actually going to dump this far down, but I think Pump looks very good regardless. I think the reason why I like Pump so much, guys, again, same thing. Gambling is just, kind of nature for crypto now, especially on memes, different coins in the trenches. Pump created the trenches, even though volume has been completely taken away from it the last few days, even weeks now. I guarantee at some point it will come back. Platforms like this are now kind of stapled within crypto probably for the rest of time. It's not going anywhere. So that's why I'm very bullish, very just long-term bullish on Pump. I think it's just a very simple trade. Obviously we caught the trade from here, from the bottom, which is great, and now it is pulling back. And now we're just waiting for another potential entry, on like a higher time frame. So that is what I wanted to cover today. Just a bunch of different stuff I've been doing, I've been watching. Oh no, I'm sorry, and there's one other coin. It's actually called Mira. So Mira seems like I still gotta do a little more research into it. I haven't dug more heavy into it, but they are launching their token. Apparently, this is a trust layer for AI. Seems like they got decent tokenomics for when it launches. I think it's launching in 2 days from now. They got a good portion of their supply that is going to be locked. They have a 6 to 12 month cliff on teams, on investors, on seed, whatever. The investors and teams, which I think is bullish. So there's not going to be nuking off that. There is, I think, an airdrop for it, and there's going to be probably sell pressure at first for the airdrop, of course, which happens all the time. But if it does dump for a while, this actually could be something to look at because this to me reminds me of a virtual protocol, but I guess for AI. And that's where, I'm still a little confused on how this is going to operate. They do have liquidity pairing, which if you guys have seen my channel for long enough, liquidity pairing is one of the most bullish things any token can have. But because it's for, it's going to operate like a layer 1 basically, but it's going to be on base. So mainly, seems like to me it's going to be an AI layer 3, if that makes sense to you guys. But that's what I'm watching too. Mira, I think, is going to be interesting. So we might get a little sell pressure first few days. Maybe it dumps for, good amount of time. But I think once it's bottomed out, and if their ecosystem actually becomes something, which that's the other thing with it. Right now, I don't see, aside from one or two projects on there, I don't see anything actually being built on it. Meaning, I don't see that how much, I don't really see too much demand for it because what is going to drive demand is a very thriving ecosystem. But as of right now, I don't really see too many things building on it. But aside from that, it seems like it could be pretty bullish if an ecosystem or some good projects do end up coming out of this. So Mira is going to be one that I'm watching. And this is Mira Network. You guys can check this out too. And this Mira Foundation, they dropped their tokenomics here. So that was pretty interesting. So that is what I wanted to cover. As I feel like instead of dropping videos daily, I've kind of just been compiling everything into a video maybe every 2 days or something like that, every 3 days. So if you got this far in the video, guys, I appreciate it. And just stay on your toes in the market. I still think we're going to be gearing up for a good Q4. I'm kind of changing my mindset on the idea that the 4-year cycle is just going to be over, very, very soon. It's weird. I don't know. I think Q4 is still lining up for a good, couple months, but right. That's why, in my personal opinion, it is very high risk, even being in crypto, because the upside I still think is pretty immense if we do get some sort of alt season. But at the same time, right, Bitcoin's already very high. Altcoins are not performing too much, even though they're at their lows. Many of them are at their all-time lows because of dilution, whatever else. But that's it. Like I said, I'm still bullish until we see very bearish structure form. I'll be staying bullish right now. So that's what I got for you guys today. I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks.